Okay, hello everybody. Good afternoon. I want to apologize right away for the shadows in here for all the windows I have. It's another gray day, so I just have to use lights, and therefore there's shadows. Sorry about that. Now, I think last time I told you that I was having camera trouble, and I had to go out and buy myself something new because the other one is shot. So we're experimenting with the camera a little bit today, and I hope it works. And if it doesn't, we'll find out. And I hope you can see what you need to see. This one does give me a little bit better options as far as zooming in. I can actually do it with the computer, so that will help. I decided to come on this afternoon because I have somebody that asked me to make some Franken pages for them, and so I decided I would come and work on that on camera and test out the camera and try to do that. Now, frankly, I didn't have a lot of colors or a lot of scraps in the colors that she kind of indicated that she'd like to have, so I have pulled out some papers and I'm going to go from there, which is not a big deal because I'll use them in other things. But I think we're going to work with mostly pinks on this one, a little bit of greens maybe. She likes purples and pinks, so I think we'll kind of go with that. And so we're going to cut some paper up. I've got one sheet, I think that's 8.5 by 11. Yeah, that's 8.5 by 11. So so that's going to be the back side of our page, because we're going to sew on it, and by sewing on it, I think it'll make it, I don't know, somewhat broken up. I was afraid to do too much to it and have both sides have stitching on them that was not where you really wanted it to be stitched. I think the idea of the Franken pages is really cool. We have Franken pages, to me, is just sort of like crazy quilting, but with paper. So now, because I'm having to cut the paper, I'm just going to cut 8.5 by 11 pieces out, and that way I have some scraps to play with. It's just one of those things where I thought that would be the best use of my paper, and in case I want to do the back side of another piece. So I'm just cutting 8.5 by 11 inch pieces out of some 12 by 12 paper. I hope everybody is having some halfway decent weather. Most everybody I know is getting snow. We're not, but for Florida, it has been darn cold this winter. We have had, it's April 8th, I think, and it's only 65 degrees out, and that is very unusual. I'm afraid that when it gets hot, it is going to be hot, very hot, and that is not going to be a pleasant thing, but that's just the way it works sometimes. So now we just moved down here a couple years ago from South Dakota, so we're kind of used to cold, but it's kind of odd to have it cold here. I'm afraid when it goes to hot, it's going to be like an oven just immediately. We are not going to have any spring, and it's just going to be crazy hot. So, but that's the way it is. It's just one of those things. So I'm just cutting up several pieces here, and I know that's kind of boring for you to watch me cut paper, but that's the way it's going to go today. I'm filming the whole thing because I really want to see how the camera works. And I really like this little cutter, except that I think I need a new blade. So, and actually, what I think I'll do is I'm going to stop the camera real quick and cut up some more pieces of paper so that you don't have to sit here with me. Okay, so now I have made scraps out of my 12 by 12 paper by making a bunch of 8.5 by 11-inch sheets and then using the little pieces after it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this over, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut up some pieces and make sort of a crazy quilt. We're going to use a glue stick. I may use a little bit of distress ink on some of the edges just because I want to accentuate the edges of the pieces a little more. I think the first piece I'm not, and then after that I will. So we're just going to start with a piece. I guess I need to move out here a little bit. And why don't we zoom in a little bit here? Okay, so shoot, I forgot my glue book. Okay, so I use a book that's just a magazine to put glue on when I'm trying to do glue. That way I can change the pages often and I don't end up with glue stuck everywhere. Now I'm going to sew these afterwards, but for starters I need them to stick down. I don't want them moving around. I'm just going to start on the edge of this one. And I will probably need a little credit card to flatten things out. Okay. And it's just, I'm going to just build as I go. Nik the Booksmith, and you really need to look up her, look at her YouTube channel, and I will make sure to put a link to her channel when I upload this. She is sort of, I think, the originator. I'm not sure where it came from exactly. It seems to be lots of people are doing them now, and they all have sort of their own kind of look to them. And I'm not worrying terribly about the exact edges because I am going to zigzag stitch over the edges of everything, but I do want my glue to hold everything in place. Now this is what I'm talking about with the glue book. I've got glue on this page, so I will just flip it around, and that way I can get hold of the next piece of paper and the next page. And I want something a little different here. I think we're gonna put this down in a couple of places. Oops, I keep moving off camera. Okay. go like that. And like I said, if it's not stuck on the edges, I will be stitching it. But I do want it to stay stuck at when my, especially if she likes these, because she's going to use them in a book. So that's the idea behind it. This may get kind of boring. I hope it doesn't for you. It gets so boring you can't stand to watch it. Like I said, you'll want to check out a lot of the internet videos because there's a lot out there that's really interesting right now. Quite a few people are making these. Quite a few people are doing them. Nik the Booksmith, like I said, is the originator, I think. I'm not, don't quote me on that one, please, because I don't know. That's where I saw it first. Yeah, I left you with total. Sometimes I can't talk and do things at the same time, unfortunately. I never did learn to chew chewing gum, so that must be my problem. I'm seeing a lot of this kind of pages. Nik uses a lot of aged papers. She does a lot of tea dyeing and coffee dyeing and that kind of thing. So she's got some very interesting pieces of paper and the likes that she uses. Now, there again, I have those things. I just don't have a lot of them in scrap right now. So, partially because I put my scraps into my glue book. I keep a composition book that I just stick the scraps in, and then later I might go back and do a page, an art journal page or something like that in it. And because of that, I don't get a lot. I don't end up with a lot of scraps. I have a little box full, but not a lot. Okay. You know, sometimes you can look and look and look at things and not see what it is that you want right away. Okay, my husband is coming in. I'm going to stop this for a few minutes. Okay, I'm sorry about that, everybody. He was gone. It's just one of those days, and he decided he was going to come back sooner than I expected, and so I did not get my video done before he got back, but that's okay. He's out working on our fence. The fence was pretty much falling down when we bought this house, and he's managed to salvage some of it and replace some of it and do a little of this and a little of that until we actually have a privacy fence in the back, which sort of needed. Anyways, he's working, and I think he said he needed hinges, is what he had to go to the hardware store for. So he went off for hinges, and didn't take him as long as I expected. Some days he can be gone for hours and hours at that silly store. So. Oh, we have to use this piece somewhere else. Oh, well, I guess. Okay. Need another piece of this. Sorry. I may have to see if I can put some music over the top of this. You guys may be just so bored you can't hardly stand it anymore. I've never done that, so I don't know if I know how to do that. And as far as color placement or patch placement, I kind of make things up as I go. I did that when I sewed, and I did that when I quilted. So I did notice that I needed a little balance on the pages. It just needed a little bit of balance, so I added that piece over there. I'm trying to keep in a similar color family, but I'm not being terribly worried about the color family. I will. It will all sort of go together when you start putting thread over the top of it anyway. So it's one of those things that it's funny how in the end something will look that you didn't expect all along. And while she likes pinks, I know that pinks and purples. If I were to make the page just all pink, it would be very boring. Now I think that this was sort of started to use up your scraps out of your scrap box. Like I said, I kind of keep mine down by not having a lot of them to use. I use mine up pretty quick. I also use little scraps in my art journals, and I use little scraps in my junk journals, and so they get used up pretty quick. And like I said, I just when I get glue on the page of that happens to be a catalog, but I use magazines that I've pulled stuff out of and whatnot, and anything works. It's just that if you have something that you can just change the page, then it doesn't get sticky. I have a craft mat, and I'm not real fond of it because you just constantly have to clean it up. So this works much better for me. Okay. Now I think there's some little pieces that are sticking out over the edges, and those will get trimmed off later. This whole piece. We need some more of this. Now I'm using stick glue for this and not wet glue, and I am very much into wet glue. I like wet glue, but this is paper into paper, and if you use wet glue, it's going to end up being really a mess. I'm afraid that would be it would warp the paper very badly. So stick glue it is. Okay. Oops. Now I cut that piece too short, and I'm not gonna. I want just one piece in here. Check my size a little more carefully. I have just this little section right there left to fill. I think for part of it, I want to use this. Okay. Well, how about that? That piece just fits right in there. Okay. Okay, so there's one piece. Okay. Now then, it has to dry before I can sew it, and I want to make another piece, but on the other piece I want to distress all the edges. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to stop the camera so you do not have to watch me paste paper for the next 15-20 minutes. I'm just going to, as I cut my pieces, I'm going to take and just distress the edges a little bit. Like so. Just to give them a sort of an old look around the edges. I want to see the difference between the two. And I'll come back before I go to sewing it, and I will show you the difference between the two, and then I'll stop the camera and go sew them. I think that that's going to, I don't know, just give the sort of quilt look to it even more than the pieces have. Let me see if I can, I'll wait and just bring it in later. Anyways, I'm going to stop this for right now, and I'm going to work on that piece, and I'll be back in just a few minutes. Alrighty. I finished up the one with the inky edges and the one without inky edges, and I want to tell you that it's a little more difficult to piece the one with inky edges, simply because you can't overlap as easily and still get your ink to show. So either ink deeply so that you can do some overlapping, or just don't do the inking. I haven't decided which one I like better yet. We'll find out after I stitch them. So anyways, here is the two different pieces that you can see. The ink's on the left and the other one's on the right. Let's see if I can zoom in here and give you a little bit closer view. I hope that's coming into focus and nice and sharp. Anyways, I'm going to go sew these. The non-inky one is dry enough, I can sew it. And I'm going to go sew that, and then I'll be back with another one to show you the end results. Okay, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, so I'm back, and I have everything stitched up. And let me back out just a little bit here. There we go. So this is the piece without the distressing around the edges. I think I almost like it better. This is the piece with the distressing around the edges. This is the back sides of them. You notice that I used a single sheet of paper because I knew that when I started stitching, it was going to sort of make it a crazy quilt kind of thing anyway. So this is my take on the Franken pages. So I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and please give it a thumbs up. Leave me some comments. Let me know you were here. Make sure that you ask me any questions that you've got, and thanks so much for stopping by. Thank you.